Everybody, welcome back to the Assistant Desk Podcast. I'm Chris, the coach at Merrimack College,
I'm George. I coach at Bentley University.
and yeah, we're excited, to keep this season 2 going with head coaches. Right? It's been really fun. We've had some great ones on already. We got a great one today,
Absolutely.
and first, I think a congrats is in order. That's a new spot.
Oh yeah, yeah. A little change up here. A little back to Bentley, as they say, and I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Well, we might get into that on a separate segment. We'll get you on for when we go back to the assistants. But yeah, want to shout out to everybody that's been listening. It's been great feedback. Like I always say, we appreciate the DMs, whether it's comments, whether it's just a text. All you guys listening is why we keep doing this, to promote young assistants, this segment with head coaches, promoting, different programs, no matter the sport, and just be able to talk to good people. So I guess with further ado, George, lead us off.
Yeah. So today we're very fortunate to have an incredible coach. He was an incredible player. Coach John Galloway from Jacksonville University. Coach, welcome on.
Thanks for having me, guys. I feel like I want to be in the basement with you guys. I feel like you guys have a good time just chopping it up and talking lacrosse, and cool to hear kind of what you guys are into right now. So most importantly, thank you for having me. This stuff is so enjoyable to listen to for me selfishly, and saw a couple clips and was honored to be asked to be a part of it.
Well, we thank you very much for taking the time, and yeah,
When we make it big and some big place buys us, we'll be able to fly you up.
yeah, that's the goal, right?
We'll be able to fly in the person that we're interviewing,
Or we'll fly down,
or we'll fly down.
We'll fly to
Maybe.
Florida. That's
Maybe
fine.
we get the private jet one day. Who knows? But no, we appreciate the kind words, and we always say, like I said a little bit ago, is it's to promote people like yourself, institutions, assistant coaches, and our goal is to just have honest and open conversations and learn a little bit, right? And
Absolutely.
our listeners to learn. Might be someone getting into coaching, might be someone changing jobs, getting nervous for that first interview, right? Or just wants to hear what the day to day is. And that's why we kind of went with this head coach segment of, like, we talked to a good amount of assistants. Um, what is a head coach looking for and things like that. So we'll kind of dive in, but wanted to open the floor to yourself. I know you're a very known man from a very well-known program, but floor is yours. Kind of give us a brief look into you, maybe your path, and what's going down in Florida.
Well, I appreciate you giving me that platform, and I had such a unique youth growing up, and with my lacrosse background, being able to be from Camillus, New York, and be in the shadows of the Carrier Dome, and to play for Coach Masser. And my greatest aspiration as a kid was not to play college lacrosse; it was to play varsity lacrosse at West Tennessee. I remember telling my gym teachers in high school, like, I'm not allowed to go onto that field. Like, until you're on the varsity team, I'll stay on the track, but I'm not allowed to be on that field. There was such a sense of pride in our community of putting on that varsity uniform. And my heroes were my coaches. Tom Donahue, Kevin Donahue, Bob Deegan, Rick Chapman, the list goes on and on. And then obviously Mike Masser. And those were the guys that I just wanted to make proud. Those were the guys that I wanted to prove right as the journey went on. And as I continued on in my lacrosse career from West Tennessee to Syracuse, I realized how valuable this sport is, not only on the field but off of it. I had no idea I wanted to coach, albeit all that excitement. I wanted to play professionally, and I wanted to, have a career in New York like you thought you were supposed to. And in a summer camp after my senior year, I met John Danowski, and we sat in the cafeteria, ironically down here in Florida, and we just talked shop. We talked about what this could look like professionally, and he invited me to be his volunteer. And I believe 3 weeks later, I packed up my car and I drove to Durham. It was the first time I had left New York, which I
Right.
often look back and think about how unique of a limited perspective I had on what else was out there. And I always say, like, that year at Duke, while I wasn't at grad school, I was a volunteer. That was my master's. Yeah, I understood
Right.
what the value of coaching was. His background in counseling. I ended up getting my master's in counseling shortly thereafter because of watching him just maneuver with the athlete. And I fell in love. I knew after that year this is what I was going to do, and led me to 4 years at Providence College as an assistant coach, as a defensive coordinator, and learning how to fall on my face and get back up. And obviously was presented with this opportunity down here. And hard to believe it's been a decade. It's been the best journey I could have ever dreamt of, and a lot of it had to do with all those mentors that I just mentioned.
Right. And was, looking at, obviously now at Jacksonville, and looking at that decade, like if you could go back, or if you look back, like how scary was it to make that jump? And not only you're going to a new institution, you're moving, and you're also, now you're the guy in charge, right? Like that's got to weigh on you. And I know there's probably assistants out there that, or even head coaches moving and going to different places, but there's always that kind of head on each shoulder here, or something, a devil and an angel on the shoulder, whatever you want to cliche way put it, of like they're talking, you saying stay, this one's saying no, go and put yourself out there. But like, walk me through that.
You hit it spot on. I tell people all the time, if I had known what I know now, I would not have taken the job. But if I didn't take that, I wouldn't have learned all of the trials and tribulations that you go through to be a first time head coach. And again, I was young and naive and wanted to be the youngest Division One head coach. Like that was really the motivator. I wanted to be the youngest Division One head coach, and because of that, I probably turned my eye, turned a blind eye to some of the brutal truths of the position as it was. Now I was fortunate when I came to unbelievable leadership that invested in lacrosse. I just happened to come at a time in Jacksonville lacrosse history where all arrows were pointing in the right direction. Everybody was
Right.
collaborating on the same platform. But again, in hindsight, probably not the best advice. But sometimes, and I always say like family aside, and family's always
Right.
got to be at the forefront of a lot of these decisions. Family aside, there's really no bad choice. Like you go to all these different places and different roles, and you're forced to learn, grow, and evolve. And that's exactly what's happened over the last decade.
It's been a great journey, and just seeing the competitive teams and things like that you've put together with your staff and the players. I mean, I think I I think I can speak for us when I say it's been a good move for you.
Yeah, it seems to
You've
have
had a
worked out
lot of
pretty
you've had a
well.
lot of success,
Pretty well.
and has have I feel like you've, bringing that Florida lacrosse into it definitely expanded a lot of the lacrosse landscape,
Absolutely.
right? And just bigger footprint, I guess. And guys going down there, whether that you're keeping the local guys or maybe injecting new blood and just teachings down in Florida. It's always been a great place for lacrosse, but I'm saying it's elevated now even a little bit more. Um, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So, Coach, you spent 10 years, you're going on 11, but you spent 10 years building Jacksonville into what it ultimately became in 2026. So, when you're in years like 4, 5, 6, and the breakthrough just like hasn't happened yet, how did you keep the staff and the players believing? Like what were some of the things that you were doing to just kind of keep that engine going forward and going, guys, stay in this with me, stay with the program here. We're right there.
Yeah, that's why this place is so unique and special, is because so many players believed in us on blind faith and a lack of evidence. And the 2020, well, really, it started the 2018 team, or the 2018 team. You lose by a goal to Ohio State. We beat Navy in the season opener. Like that was on the heels of being 3-11 and starting the season 0-8. So like you saw success and you realized, okay, if you get what you emphasize. Like that's something I learned early on in my career. If you emphasize something specifically, we'll get it back. Whether it be, hey, we want to be the toughest team in the country, like we can control that, or the best conditioned
Right.
team. And
Right.
2018 gave us like that dose of hope, right? Which is something we desperately needed. And then 2020 obviously derailed that journey for so many of us. And we had to really take a deep look in the mirror as a staff. And really, the huge change was our staff, which you just mentioned. But bringing on Chris Brzezinski, who's going on year 7 for me, Pat Cornelius, who serves in a lot of different roles with us, starting to have some continuity and some consistency in recruiting and voice, right? Just
Right.
the
Right.
having a consistent voice, like that assistant coaching role. I don't go into those meetings anymore because we're we're speaking the same tongue. So that gave us this great sense of confidence going into each game. And I said it Monday at our team meeting, like I expect to win every game. Like it was 288 days on Monday till Memorial Day, and if we expect anything less than that, then I'm cutting our players short. And I think our staff believes that now. And is that is that going to happen? Yeah. Listen, it's a difficult journey. It's a difficult expectation, but man, that belief changes what our behaviors become in August compared to in May. So I do think that was 2018 provided that. 2022 really provided that for us. And since 2022, we're the fifth winningest program in Division One lacrosse, and that's a stat that a lot of people don't know, but it's because of the belief of a lot of those guys that came for a dream and ultimately made it a little bit of a reality.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Um, with a lot of programs at a lot of different levels, is it just takes that ultimate buy-in
Right.
from head coach to the staff, ops guys, guys on the team managers, anybody that's on that journey with you. When you have everybody like going in that same direction and carrying the same level of attention to detail, uh, academics, all of it, like great things are possible. And like you said, like once you get that well-oiled machine and what the staff is thinking, what the assistants are thinking, and they already know what you're thinking, what you want, and that builds. And then the guys see how prepared all of you guys are, and then they take it upon themselves, right? And I think that's ultimately how that train gets rolling to that record or that stat that you just said, which I did not know, but that's awesome. That's awesome.
So you just kind of touched on it a little bit. You've had some assistants that have been with you for years, right? What makes you decide that an assistant is someone that you want to continue building this with? I mean, we're assistants, right? I'm not always the best guy all the time, you know what I mean? And I get, and there's got to be some of that everywhere. So kind of, yeah, what kind of makes you think that like this is someone that I'm going to build this program?
Yeah, I just the reality is we spend more time with our assistants than with our family. So like the type of man you want to be around the type of man or woman that I want around my kids, and we all have our flaws. We can't have fatal flaws, and I think that that's what I've learned in my time here. And we've made mistakes along the way, and we've learned with every stop. But when I for example, in 2023, I was having my daughter, and I had no hesitation about giving the keys to our assistant coaches. I was in the hospital. It was April. It was an April baby, poorly timed by us, right? But they were at Lindenwood, and I was at home, and you had this sense of like, okay, these guys, if the flight gets canceled, I know that our players are going to be taken care of. And that type of belief, it is hard to find, but when you have it, you invest in it. And that's something that I do every year. I want to make the experience of our staff better every year, whether it's financially, whether it's lifestyle. Like my job, my hope is that our guys, it becomes a real pain to think about leaving, just because hopefully this experience, which Coach Janowski gave me, and I probably wouldn't have got stayed in coaching if I didn't have that, because I've heard horror stories. But Coach Janowski gave me this autonomy and lifestyle that I thought, okay, I want to give back to him because how he treats me, and I hope that I can provide that experience. And I'm still getting better at it. I have a mentor I speak with every Tuesday, and we talked about that today. Like, how do I make the assistant coaching life experience better? And I am constantly evolving, even in year 11 here.
What about like just building that trust, because you have guys that have been there for some time. And whether it's even with someone in a different role like a GA, or somebody that maybe there on a year, like how do you build that trust with them and bring them into that family, right? Or say someone does have that opportunity they can't turn down. You got a new guy that you have to fill a role with on staff. How are you going to bring them in and really embrace like, hey, this is what we do. I know you don't know it yet, but we're going to get you there.
Yeah, I think we start with like the interview process being a little bit more about who the person is versus what they know. And that is paid dividends for us. I think that there's a lot of great lacrosse minds. I want to be around great people. Like we have a saying in our locker room, better people make better dolphins. I do believe that. I think that we're gonna, especially, for us selfishly in year 11, we kind of have I have a vision of what I want this to look like, and not to the T's, but big picture. When May rolls around, I know what I want it to look like, and that allows us to say, okay, let's bring in great people first. That's got to be where we start. Humility and gratitude is our number one core value. So, does the staff practice that? And this is something we're talking a lot about as a staff this year. Is when the guys graduate, one of our measures was how many weddings do you get invited to? Like if we're getting invited to a lot of weddings,
Right.
we're doing a good job. But
Absolutely.
Right.
you guys know, right? Like when you get
Yeah.
that invite in the mail, it hits you a different way than a win or a loss does.
Makes you feel old. And then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you
checks
get that
box.
little bit of like, wow, like we made that connection.
Yeah, we did
Right.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they're thinking about you after lacrosse, then you impacted them more than lacrosse. And
Absolutely.
and I think it means so much. And this year it's like, okay, how are they defining you? Like what the way that I talk about Coach Masser and Coach Donahue and those men in my life. Well, that's why we do this. We don't do this for the paycheck. We do this for that type of conversation 20, 30 years down the road. Well, that starts now, and we can't wait for that conversation to happen.
Great way to look at it. And we all talk about like trying to help these young men navigate life. You're talking to them at a young age when they don't know what major they want. They're trying to pick where they want to go to school and play lacrosse, and then to see them graduate and go all the way through that. That's something that I think like a lot of people underestimate, right? Is that, like you said earlier, you're with the staff more than we're with our families. That's also the same thing with these young men learning, and these parents are trusting you that you're gonna mold them into take what they've done and times to it, and mold them into better young men than when they got there. And to see that come full circle, I think has to be one of the coolest things. I have not done it at a head coach role, but just as in an assistant, being at Merrimack going on year 10. I just went through it couple weeks ago, months ago. Couple wedding invites come in, and I'm like, I was your assistant coach. I like, I get it. We maybe joked a little bit more than with the head coach, but like getting that feeling is just like, wow, like you helped out this young man. You got him hopefully to where he wants to be, or
On the
gave
path.
just gave some sort of
In
insight
the way.
somehow, some way. Like that is the number one, and I don't think they tell you that on a job interview. Because if I do that, I'd be like, I really don't care what the pay is. Like that's so much cooler.
Right. Totally.
Mhm. That's so much cooler.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
coach, as a head coach, how do you determine what you need to control and then what you need to hand over to the assistants, right? So, I mean, I swear we didn't go over these questions before,
like
but
this
it's kind
one.
of flowing
I like
into it,
this one, yeah.
as they're coming up, you're kind of touching on them before and we're jumping into it. But yeah, so how do you like kind of determine, this is me, this is you guys 100%?
I think first it's recognition of who you are, and it's something I've learned in my time in this chair. And again, I have a lot of advice and guidance in this because I know myself. I am by nature, and I was as a player. Like all the guys I played with in the Rattlers are rolling their eyes right now because I would yell over to Jordan McIntosh and Jordan Wolf like, "Hey, maybe we should do this," and like that was just my DNA, and I knew that would be a potential negative impact on our staff. And again, it's a daily battle with me. And again, that's why I have people that are advising me throughout, because especially when you get in the season, you get lost in the sauce a little bit of, what, today didn't go the way I'm going to do the practice plan, or I'm going to inject on this offensive or defensive or special teams meeting. And the most important thing we just did it last week with our staff is like coordinators present, like, give me your vision so I can support you versus me constantly being the one in the front of the room, which again, 5 years ago, I might have said it, but I wasn't living as I was saying. And
Right.
I've really been able to take a step back. A lot of it has to do with just the people, right? I have a
Right.
staff that I trust, but you have to give them, like I learned by falling on my face at Providence College, and Coach Gabrielli allowed me to do that. If you don't do that, you're kind of handicapping them. So it is a daily reminder of, hey, delegate, support, communicate. That's something that I continue to grow with, because you know how it is. Like, I'm sure you've worked with people where you see the tension in their chest when it's not going the way they want it. And,
Right.
I sometimes I pent that up and I just go
Yeah.
directly to my office, and that's the worst possible case. And your players know it. And it's
Okay.
something that we're talking a lot about this year as a staff is our players need to know we are a united front, even if we disagree like heck for 2 hours in the morning at a staff meeting.
But, I don't mean to cut you off,
No.
and we were talking on a previous, episode. It's like, that's where, like, getting that challenge, like, in a healthy, challenge of each other, of, like you just said, coordinators present, and just to everybody get on the same page. But then your job is to, whether it's poke holes or ask questions, and then that little back and forth, you don't know it, but everybody's growing and everybody's learning what everybody wants. And then siding, you'll find something in the middle, right? Lack of better terms,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, too, like you said, the team sees it. You
Right.
know, they
Right.
might be involved in what they're doing, or we're in buck into the dining hall or get to study hall, whatever it might be, but they're talking about it. And if like you said, if they see that kind of that togetherness of the staff and every aspect, it just grows, and it spreads to the team, and then you have years like you had, you know what I mean? And continue to grow, and have that ability to grow because you recognize it, and hey, we're going to get better at this. Not just the X's and O's, we're going to get better at in the office stuff too, even if it is perfect already.
What was one thing you had to, if you had to pick, that you delegated out, that you're like, oh, I want that back. That was my baby, or like, that's what I used to do, you know, 10 years ago at another spot, where you're like, I want that little thing back, but you've passed it on, you've passed the torch.
Yeah, I think by nature, the head coaching role, you think of like, hey, you're going to be the motivational speaker. You're going to be the guy pregame that's going to rally the troops. And there's
Right.
moments where I certainly chime in, but in my time, I've learned like that's not always the most impactful. And my job is to connect with them on more of an emotional level. And Coach Brzezinski, he's got these lion in the drawer speeches that he likes to provide, and
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 a
and I've
lot of
learned like
energy, and a
and a
lot of
ton of
energy.
energy.
I love it.
Exactly. Exactly. And Coach Giles Harris, like he's got this quiet humility, but that one day a week he changes it. And you know how it is. Like guys that don't do that all the time, it's much more impactful when
Right.
they do
Absolutely.
Right.
it. So
Right.
I don't talk in pregame anymore. I'll say one or two things of like I want us to breathe. I've kind of reassessed how I give a speech or any sort of motivation. I try to connect with them on something that I think is going to happen in the game. But, that was like when I got into it, so I was like, I am, Denzel and Remember the Titans. I am Al
Right.
Pacino in The Longest Yard. Like that is what you envision as a head coach. And,
Right.
that's something I said, you know what? That's not my my superpower isn't that anymore. But I can allow Coach P or Coach Giles Harris to go have that be their superpower. So probably that because you think of that as that coach, and that's no longer my role.
Right.
That's awesome. I want to hear Coach P's speech, a
A
pregame
pregame
speech.
speech, yeah.
I don't want to be the one playing against you guys for it,
Yeah,
but
right. I don't
I've
want to be the
seen.
other end of that. I like
Yeah,
to
I
be at
just
the
want to
front
be
of
the fly on the
it.
wall and hear it. So get the video team. Just give me a little snippet. Just a little
We will.
present one day. One day.
Absolutely. I got to make
So,
sure HR doesn't hear it. That's my
Yeah,
problem. That's
well,
always
yeah,
we
that's
always
okay.
we can bleep. We
yeah, a
can
private
do what we need.
video.
Yeah, we'll just send
Yeah,
that. Just send that to
I
the.
understand. We all,
exactly.
I pick up where you're putting down.
What's something you believed about being a head coach early in your career that you completely disagree with now?
Mm. Oh man, there's a lot. I think just how demonstrative I was early on in my career. Like again, I wonder how many wedding invites I lost my first 2 or 3 years. Just the way that I communicated, like everything was about success, was about wins and losses. It was much more transactional than it was transformational. I wasn't clear. Like I have a post-it on my desk, clear as kind. I think I danced around some items because I didn't want to deliver hard news. I've learned that players, even parents, it's not easy for them, but it's always more preferred that they get the truth early on in their experience. So clear as kind has been a huge one for me. And I just think like when you get in this chair, you think it's going to be all about the wins and the losses, and it's not. I mean, my hats are so rarely about lacrosse that I'm wearing, and it makes it really fun because I get to dive a little bit deeper on what I believe now are the more important things interpersonally, and it's my greatest burden of responsibility, especially at this job, because almost everybody on our team is a flight away from home, and I know that my chair, my office is more often about the girlfriend, about what's going on personally with the family, about what might be going on mentally with their health. So that seat means a little bit more to me.
When you brought up a point, and I saw a clip on Instagram which I thought was just so cool, and it might be a little off topic, and um you have your family, not just, the immediate, but like your mom at at a team dinner. I saw a clip out recently on social media, and I think like that right there is so important, because if you're a parent looking at the institution, or just one of the guys on the squad, where it's like, no, you are not just yourself fully invested, but the whole Galloway family is invested. And if they have you, they have them, right? It's kind of like that got your back mentality. But is that something you've always done, or did you go like everybody's involved, like this family's driving the bus here?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. It's something we've started to do. It's the second time she spoke to the team. My mom is actually, she's a nurse, but she's a sexual assault nurse examiner by trade. And, really the thought behind it this year was like, there's 24 new faces in our locker room right now.
Right.
The way that my mom talks, the way that my mom educates, it's kind of a lot of the why behind me. And I wanted our
Mhm.
guys to see kind of where I come from, why humility and gratitude is so important to me, why I'm constantly talking about respect of women, is because when I was 15, my mom had my head jammed into books about sexual assault. Like that's how I learned how important it is. So for me, it was like this chance to give them a little bit of an inside look, because I think sometimes it can sound like just talk, like I'm checking a
Right.
box in the beginning of the
Right.
year. But our first team meeting, it was that, and ultimately it was, hey, if we have great men, um, I don't know if we're going to win another conference championship. I don't know if we're going to go to the Final Four. A lot of that is out of our hands, but I'm going to be able to put my head on the pillow on the last day and say we did things the right way as an organization, and we're going to be proud of that.
Awesome. That's so cool that um that the whole family gets to really share the experience of Jacksonville lacrosse. And like I said before, I think it's so important that, and to George's point of like, when guys see the staff on the same page, when they see a whole family and everything invested, you can pull just that little bit out of them, that
That
extra
little extra, no
that
doubt.
extra ground ball, whatever it may be, like that hurts a little less because they know that everybody's on it
Well, and it's a
together.
wholesome look too, right? I mean, they get a look into your life, not just your immediate family, but everybody around it,
Right. Like
and
the
I think
whistle's
that's
off, like you're a human.
yeah, right.
Like that little bit of humility is what I think when guys see it, they're like, oh, they don't just sit there like, watching film and on a whiteboard and wear a whistle and blow it and,
Right.
and run drills all day.
Yeah,
Like, no, like
yeah.
we have daughters and sons and extended family. And yes, we go to dinner too. And we do those things. And that's when that bond really, really grows, I
Yeah, I
think.
mean, you remember being in high school, like if you saw your social studies teacher at the grocery store, it was like a
Well,
wait a second,
oh,
it was like an
yeah,
elephant. Like
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They're like,
Like,
wait, they eat, they go,
you
they,
yeah,
you like
yeah,
chips? What a
exactly.
weird, yeah, like, yeah,
What a, I didn't
They
know
give
that.
it's
yeah,
awkward. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
mom, don't go to aisle 7. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
you're like, oh, that's interesting. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
now we're the social
Humanizes
studies
it.
teachers.
Yeah, great.
How
absolutely.
how full
Yeah.
circle it's come.
Uh, so back to kind of like lacrosse a little bit here in the season you guys had. You guys have had success before last season, obviously, of course. Uh, but this group really kind of broke through it, right? What changed internally that made you believe that like this team or this last season was different? Like this team, they have it. Like we're here.
Yeah, every year we do an exercise. We do the Stockdale paradox exercise. We identify our brutal truths, but then we identify areas of optimism, and ultimately we come with our superpowers. And last year's team's superpowers were so obvious, right? We were incredibly mature and old and weathered in heartbreak, that we those scars forged something really unique in us. We had egoless leadership, like from the top down. Jack Taylor's our best player, maybe the most humble guy. Like our best players were the lowest maintenance. And I think ultimately when we went into it, this team, we said, hey, we're going to be player led. We're just going to simplify it for you. And the best analogy I have for that is on the last game in the conference championship, I did not speak in one huddle. I didn't have to. None of the coaches did. It was Charlie DeGennaro, it was Aaron Taguri, it was Jack Taylor, and the night before we had a team Zoom, and I went back and forth. Right, you guys know it. Like we
Yeah.
hadn't won. Like the discussion of us not winning this conference was so heavy, and like I said earlier, like I'm planning my Newt Rockney speech. Like, all right, I'm going to blow this out of the water. But I had the leadership council come on right before the call, and Charlie DeGennaro got up and I said, "Hey, what do you want me to hit on? How do you want me to emphasize it?" And Charlie goes, "Coach, don't say a word. We got it." And
We
like,
got it.
Wow.
it's like, okay, that this is the egoless leadership, the scars that we had endured for those 4 or 5 years. It just kind of forged into this really simple plan that we were going to let the players lead from, and a lot of it was a bit of a perfect storm. And the challenge is we can't recreate that. Now this year is
Right.
True.
a totally different journey with a totally different group of men within the same organization, though. So not
Right.
forgetting the history of those guys, but doing it in their own chapter.
You can't unsee what you just saw. You can't unsee it, right? So it's
Yes.
new guys, new chapter,
I love that.
but the goal remains the same, and then there's another one right after once you achieve that.
That's one of the immediate check marks of coaching, right? Like when the team looks at you, coach, we got you. Like we got it, coach. Say nothing. We got this. Then you're like, okay, here we
Yeah,
go.
boy,
That had to be it. That
the
gives
men are
you
ready
chills
to
as you're
play.
listening to
The
it.
men are
Like,
the men are ready to
coach,
play.
we got you here. So in your opinion, what's the biggest mistake that young head coaches make when they're building their first staffs?
Yeah, I think you hire people too similar to you, right? You're attracted to what you know and how you operate. And Coach P's so different than me. Coach Monroe, I mean, we joke like I'm a drink black coffee and poke all the things we're bad at. Coach Monroe drinks coffee with heavy cream and everything is sunshine and rainbows, and
I
but you
love it.
need that,
Yeah.
like he brings such a different perspective to our staff of like maybe it's not that bad, and
Right.
so I think
Right.
I think that's always the first natural occurrence is you hire people that are like minded, and we've been able to veer away from that, and it's been incredibly beneficial.
Definitely. I mean, it shows, right? I mean, the success is right there. The proof is in the pudding, as they say.
What's a in your you haven't or in your hiring process, interview process, what's like your 3 or 2 or 1 non-negotiable thing that you have or question that you're like every candidate that comes on campus or on a Zoom or whatever it may be, phone call, gets asked this question, you're like, "I need to know that response." And, like, what is that question? If you wanna say it, great.
Yeah.
I
Do you
don't
want to
want
give us the secret
I don't
sauce
you
or
don't have
not?
to give up the
No.
secret, but,
Yeah.
like that one question where you're just like, "This is a guy for us," and then we can get broader and go into X's and O's and things like that, but what do you have?
Yeah, we always ask about the relationships with the guys, and a lot often you learn a lot about the depth of a relationship with a coach and a player based on how they initially describe it with their best player. And it's easy to say, "Hey, Coach Brzezinski, what is? Hey, his mom and dad were really invested in the like you learn," or is it? Yeah, he comes to my office all the time. We watch film. It's like okay, so it's a little bit more surface level than
Mhm.
does have depth. And then the second piece of it, and we utilize this a lot, and it's no secret. Danielle Delarocca is our assistant AD of lacrosse, and she's my right hand woman. Like she kind of knows what I believe in terms of the person. So I have that member, that candidates spend the beginning of the interview and the end of the interview with Danielle. And a lot of that feedback is what we use to find out about whether or not he's going to be a fit. Just because, again, I really believe in humility and gratitude. And if there's a sense of arrogance, like that to me is I just, it,
Doesn't
it makes
fit.
my skin crawl. Yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
just
fit what
not
you're
it.
looking for, and you have that opportunity, obviously, to say, like, "This just doesn't fit." Has there ever been, um, a candidate where you're like, "Man, you knocked out 9 out of 10 things, but I just don't think it's gonna work out." And, like, how do you let that down or let that go or break that news?
Yeah, I think, I can think of one specifically where it was just so obvious early on that we didn't get so far down the process that you felt guilty about it. But I come back to like the lacrosse acumen was so there. Like
Right.
you're listening, you're like, oh my goodness, this would make us a lot better. But
Right.
players don't really. Yes. Could it have made us incrementally better on the lacrosse field? Absolutely. But were guys going to be comfortable to go into his office?
And you're not
I,
going to sacrifice that.
No, you
Yeah,
can't,
it didn't
right?
feel,
Yeah.
yeah, you knew again, if you lose, it was gonna be really bad, right? But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we lose the right way, because we're gonna lose. That's the harsh reality of this,
Right.
right?
Sure.
And when we do, how are we losing? And that defines a lot of your darkest moments. Which it's like a
Yeah.
lot of this is defined by how you handle that, especially early in the season. The heartbreak at the end of the season.
Yep.
So many of your decisions get made on
Yep.
the heels of defeat, not on victory. So
Right.
that's such a big part of what we're looking for.
Wow. Wow.
So, kind of going into that, how honest should an assistant be with his head coach boss when they fundamentally disagree on something?
I think the dialogue early on is the most important, and I've learned, even as an assistant, like asking questions versus telling. Like
Okay.
it's so much easier to get your point across by saying, I don't quite understand. Can you explain it? And to me, even as in a different role, when I want to disagree, my lessons have been don't jump down a throat or just constantly ignore or brush off because that leads to people not contributing. But asking more questions to get to the bottom of what you're trying to get, it's actually it's a clinical strategy that they tell you is like instead of especially in counseling, like, don't tell them what is wrong with them. Ask more questions to get the answer from them. And if you continue to disagree, obviously there's a moment of confrontation. And then that's the final piece. Like you have to be comfortable with confrontation and then it has to end quickly. I think that's what I've learned
Yeah.
years past. You harbor it a little bit. Now it's like, hey, I get it. You're mad. I'm mad. We're competitors. Like that's okay. But we
Right.
gotta walk out of this door together. And that's something I think we've done a little bit better job communicating.
Awesome. Love that. So, what is one thing you expect every assistant on your staff to do without ever having to ask? Like, what's the one non-negotiable in the office, or on the field, or whatever it might be that you're just like, I don't even have to ask that. I know they got it.
That's a good one. I mean, there's every chapter of the season is different. For like
Right.
right now, it's like what is the dialogue with the players because it's about to be Christmas morning. We're about to open
Yeah.
up our presents for the first time. Is
Right.
is that is that relationship going to be day one on the field, or like are we starting that with the freshmen? Are we, one of the things that I learned this summer reading, I just read a book about your blood flow and the optimism and positivity you have when you're moving. It's like I got rid of my desk and I got a standing desk, and I'm not going to have any more meetings in my office. They're all going to be on walks, and it also allows players to not have to make eye contact with you, which for an 18-year-old is hard to do early on. So
Yeah.
you can
Yep.
Yeah.
be a little bit more honest. So like that's one of the things we're asking our staff to do is like, hey, you don't have to take them to lunch every time or bring them into your office. Like just go on a
Right.
walk
Right.
because they're going to be more willing to talk to you looking that way if they if they feel like it's something that's difficult to communicate with. So that starts it. And then I think the second piece of it is like we always have to be recruiting here.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not the player. It's often the relationship. Like it's, hey, don't reach out to the Sweetlax guy just when you want a guy,
Right. Right.
because they know that. It's just like it's the same
Sure.
feeling we get when club coaches reach out. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna sell us a product right now.
Right.
Like we know it's
Right.
coming.
Yeah. Right.
Um, can you forge an actual relationship before you have to get to that, that breaking point?
And do you practice like the part of like they just said of like going out on a walk and like when you're meeting with an assistant individually, like outside of that staff meeting, and you just want to either run by something, did you start practicing that with the staff and it was positive and you continue to using that or you're planning on using it now with the players or like was it just like, hey, no, we're guys, let's buy into this because it's proven to work. Right.
Yeah, it's a new concept. We're in trial phase right now, to be transparent, and I'm excited to start using it. One of the things for our individual meetings with our staff that we're going to do this year is same template. Just three things, same template. I think I'm guilty of it. Like you build up this staff meeting, this individual meeting that's going to be 30 minutes, and then what happens? You start to say, I can't do it this week. Okay, let's push it to
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, one of the things my mentor taught me is, hey, same exact three questions It doesn't have to be more than 5 minutes. Give it to him before. Allow him to be prepared. If he doesn't need to meet, let him cancel it. So it's just making sure that there's a touch point without it becoming just a task that they have to check off of the box.
I like that too. I'm learning so much today. Oh my God.
So, coach, you've gone through a couple assistants that have left for other opportunities, right? So, how do you balance developing a coach for your program while knowing that developing them may eventually mean that they're going to move on to somewhere else, and then you're going to have to start that kind of process over again?
Yeah, I think it's like the thing that it's two things can be true, right? Like selfishly, you don't want change. Like continuity is one of our areas of optimism, and the Stockdale paradox exercise this past offseason was like, hey, we're all back. This is
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
But the other side of it can be true that that's our responsibility. Coach Brzezinski said it. Like he wants to be a head coach again. He already has been a successful head coach. Coach Monroe, obviously, I mean, he's going to be one of the hottest names in our industry on the offensive side of the ball. Coach Charles Harris, I mean, he's maybe one of the best kept secrets in our industry, and he just has a professional career on the field right now that he's
Right.
pursuing. But someday he's going to be running his own side of the ball, so it's coming. I have found it to be the most rewarding feeling that Sean Ewert is now the offensive coordinator at Bryant University, and that Nick Colpitz is the head coach at Queens. Like those
Right.
guys,
Right.
that branch. It's like, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if we're doing something right. I don't know if we were doing it right then, but man, they're having a lot of success, and you feel like it's like part of your family, in so many
Right.
ways.
Well, it's similar to like we were just talking about a little bit ago of like when you get those wedding invites, when you see that guy get that job.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
cheering them on, right?
right. Could be just step up of a coordinator at a different institution, maybe their alma mater, or even now getting that head coach job and something like that. I feel like that's gotta be a cool one too. Like that's a dad moment, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
taught these guys, you took a chance on them, and similar to the players.
Yeah, it really is. And the relationships are just so deep. Those are your guys on the road. They become like
Yeah.
you're so excited to catch up with them. It's pretty special.
Well,
Yeah.
lacrosse is such a big world, and I think we always all say it. It's like such a big world, but it's such a small world too. Like everybody sees lacrosse, and it's all over the place, but
Yep.
it's also very small and tight knit. And like you just name two guys that are now climbing that ladder or at the head coach position, and they like you said, they came off the trio there, and that's kind of that's a special thing to be able to say. So,
For sure.
if you could sit down with the 25-year-old Coach Galloway today, what would you tell him about becoming a head coach?
Man, I read something the other day that unfortunately, you're not going to be liked by everybody. The reality of I read a great quote the other day. The reality of coaching is that you are always the villain in somebody's story. And I
Wow.
lost so much sleep early on in my career of like, this parent's not going to be happy with me, or how are they looking at me when I walk out to the tailgate. And you just realize like you have to do what allows you to put your head down at the pillow at night. And too often I allowed my decisions to be impacted by how I would be maybe seen or perceived.
Hmm.
And it,
Hmm.
it really, like, there was times probably early on to halfway through where like the anxiety started to really strike. And I never experienced that, but more than
Right.
playing this, that got to me, that
Right.
you were letting somebody down. And I think it came back to like when we started to lay out our standards. We said, all right, we're going to be solution oriented over problem oriented, but we're going to care deeply about everyone. And if we care deeply about everyone, even though mom and dad might not be happy with us on game day, that son someday is going to come back and say, hey, I get it. I understood why, or I understood what you were saying there. And if you're doing it from a place of integrity, at some point it's going to click. It just sometimes isn't always right away.
I love
Right.
that.
Right.
I mean, that's part of
That's a
growing up
great
as players, right? Like you want to
right.
hear that. Like, we've always had that kind of aha moment where it's like, okay, yep. I mean, we just we had our old college coach, our former college coach on, our former head coach when we were playing, and more often than not, those
Oh,
times have
can't
clicked through. You know what I mean?
we
And
could have done 2 hours of just lessons,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
so true though.
And
if
when they hit is the different part.
yeah,
Are they going to hit in the 4 years or 5 years that you have there? Are they going to hit the 4 to 5 after that? Are they going to hit the 20 after that?
right.
I mean, there's some stuff that's still kind of clicking through today. So it's definitely that's definitely a great, and I like that quote too. You're always going to be
Villain.
somebody's villain in someone's story, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's true. But you want to be able to sleep and do right by them.
Coach, for you, if you had to give a piece of advice for someone that is looking to further their career, um, jump the ladder in divisions or whatever it may be as an assistant and moving around, or um, what's a piece of advice that you would put out there for people in our positions of assistants or somebody getting into the game? And we do ask this question a lot because I love different perspectives,
Totally.
right? What's a piece of advice that you would really stand by?
Yeah, I think you said it earlier that lacrosse community is so small. Your loyalty or lack thereof will always be exposed. And I find it so often hearing on the sidelines, just, a lot of our evaluations, I know in terms of
Right,
hiring, Chris Brzezinski is a great example. Like, they're done on the sidelines. They're done in how you interact with somebody. And if the conversation is about how much you dislike your boss or how much you dislike being at an event, or eh, you just, it's a mental note, even if it's not, officially taken. And even if it's not me doing the hiring, someone asked me, it's like, man, there's something about that that's gonna, we say with our players, like, if a recruit is talking negatively about his teammates or his coaches in high school or club, he's eventually going to do it here. And
Right.
right. Creatures of
it's
habit.
I think it's the same with the assistant coaching thing is, there's a sense of loyalty. And if there's a guy who's wants, like, the way that Coach Brzezinski talks about Coach Kudelka is so deeply rooted in a respect. Even if he doesn't agree with everything he did, that that Coach P doesn't agree with everything I do. Like, I know that,
Right,
but I know that on the face, when we're out there in public trying to build a brand and, build our organization, he's going to represent us in a way that I would be really proud of.
right.
Love that.
That's awesome.
So, like we said before, you spent a decade building Jacksonville. What do you think your assistant coaches have sacrificed or invested behind the scenes that the outside world will never see?
I think first it's our location. Like, people forget it, like, to recruit here, you have to fly. You have to,
Right.
Yeah,
be in a hotel for long periods of time or bunk up with one of your buddies. Like, there is no drive to the event and be back. So that's a huge piece of it. Then there's the personal side. Like, again, Coach Brzezinski, we're thankful he's in a great relationship now with an awesome woman. But for a long time, I was like, man, I am asking him to give up half of his year, whether it be in the
yeah,
office or on the road,
Right.
and it's hard to grow roots. So I think just our geographic location provides so many challenges that people forget. And I know there's other schools that go through it, but we're certainly one of them. And then the second piece of it is it's blind faith. Like, Colin Monroe left an NCAA tournament team. They almost beat Penn State in the first round.
Right.
Like, they won the Patriot League championship. He could have stayed there and probably would have continued to ascend, but he took a chance and understood that there was a place, a moment of growth here. And that's a huge plunge that I recognize isn't easy. Just like our recruits, our coaches are taking a huge chance, and I hope that they know that, because of that, we're going to invest just as much right back into that.
yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, you know, I think that we have learned a lot of wonderful things today.
Absolutely.
A lot of
This has been
wonderful
awesome.
things. A lot of wonderful things. Coach, we won't take up a lot more of your time, but you know, can't thank you enough for giving us the opportunity to talk with you and hearing some stories, hearing some just insight. I think that you know a lot can be taken from this, whether
Absolutely.
it's wanting to do that at your program or whatever it may be. So I think we got a wealth of knowledge today. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I hope you had fun,
Yeah.
and really appreciate you getting on here and helping our podcast grow and giving some knowledge to people.
Absolutely, coach. Thank you very much. I'm going to start taking a lot more walking meetings. I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I really do. And no, this has been awesome. And thank you very much. And best of luck to the Dolphins. Everybody in school. I know you guys just started classes, like you said. And yeah, good luck this season.
Best of luck, coach.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys too. And Coach Janowski told me a long time ago, every idea in this industry is stolen. I can't wait to listen to your podcast and steal a lot from you guys and your guests. So I feel privileged and honored to be on here. So thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, coach.
Appreciate you. Thank you, coach.